All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to our webinar today, Behavior Evaluation and Monitoring. I'm real excited about this because this is a really hot topic. Behavior is a topic that is a very difficult thing to deal with across the country. Schools are dealing with behavior, and so today we have something we're going to be sharing with you, and hopefully it might be able to help you. So let me go ahead and just give you a little background. It is going to be a pretty action-packed webinar. It's 30 minutes. My name is Richard Capone. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Let's Go Learn. And so I'm just going to start off with a few slides, and I will be jumping into the system. But I have like 2 minutes on the background of Let's Go Learn, and then we'll jump into the meat of the webinar. So first of all, who is Let's Go Learn? So I founded the company in 2000 with Dr. McCollum. He ran the Reading Credential program at UC Berkeley, and our goal was to really create tools that were diagnostic that would help teachers, right? So at the time, we wanted to answer why. Why is a student struggling in reading? Why are they doing well? And that's always been our guiding principle, right? So if we do something, it has to be helpful for teachers. It's really important, and that's what we did back then, and that's what we're doing today. And by the way, when we first launched our first assessment, it actually worked over a modem. So we've been doing this for a long time, and the technology has really advanced. It's real exciting to be in this space. In terms of the problem today that we're going to be talking about in behavior, and I think the reason why it's a big issue is that a lot of times the solutions are piecemeal, right? So what does that mean? It means that somebody in one level, a behavior solution could be a disciplinary solution, which is not the right way of looking at it. But if you don't have a good behavior solution, maybe you're suspending kids, right? Sometimes we see some schools or districts will implement PBIS, or they'll implement little pieces and pockets. And I think sometimes it's almost a result of the way funding is arranged. But what happens is you have all these piecemeal solutions that are not comprehensive, and that causes a problem, right? Because when something is not comprehensive, it can't be proactive. The other issue is that a lot of times data is limited, right? So we don't think of behavior like we do academics. When there's an academic problem, we have an intervention, we collect data, we progress monitor, and then we resolve it, right? At least hopefully we resolve it. And so a lot of times in behavior, data is limited or it's not being collected at all. So these are two big issues that we're trying to address in the solution we have and what I'm going to be talking about today. So let me just real quickly jump in here. So if you look at the structure, so first of all, we have our core academics platform, which is a reading and math diagnostic assessment. We now have AI hooked into it. So it's a really powerful system. We diagnose present levels. We're working with a lot of special education departments. So that became sort of the basis for what we created. Because a lot of our customers say, hey, you guys do progress monitoring in academics. Can you also do it in behavior? And so that's what spurred us to do it. And this product was launched about a month ago. It's really early stages in the sense that we don't have necessarily a lot of users, but we do have people using it. And so this is how we developed it. So on top of that are really three components. One is you're going to have a site survey tool. And this is something where you're able to look at a school district or a school and measure their health and their implementation. So are the teachers trained? Do people have a good vocabulary understanding of your behavior program? How is data being collected? So on one level, you need to be able to look at each school to make sure that it is implementing your behavior plan properly. Now, you may already have some of this done, which is great. So you don't necessarily have to use all of our components. They're all a la carte. Okay, so that's the one component. The next component is student monitoring. How are you collecting data? Is the only data you're collecting right now, referrals being sent to the office, or is it sticky notes? Our thing here is we've created a great student monitoring system that is very easy to use. It's light, it's nimble, it's up to date. And so I'll be showing you this. This is really what I'm focusing on today, is showing the progress monitoring of students. And then the last component is professional development. So are your teachers trained? Are your administrators trained? Is everyone measuring stuff the beginning of the year, middle, and end? Are you all on the same page, rowing the canoe together, right? So professional development is a big piece. Now, this, of course, is very broad and diverse, but I'll talk a little bit more about it in a second. All right. So talking about PD, just some of our expertise. So we have a team of people who are strong in behavior, behavior specialists, administrators who've implemented behavior systems. And what we've done is we've done some different conferences. So we've had a 3-day conference that Amy and Amy have run in a couple different places in the country. We've done that last year and the year before that. This sort of provides the framework for training people on behavior. Now, this is not something everyone is going to use. Some people have come to our trainings and they've ended up using our software as well. But I just want to sort of mention that PD is anything from a la carte PD to consultation to all the way up to training your entire district. So we've done entire district trainings where it's 8-10 days of PD, where we're training all the different people in the district at the site level all the way up to the district level. But it also could be, maybe you already have things in place and you just need really support to help implement or refine what you have. So I just wanted you to know everyone's at a different place when it comes to behavior, it comes to your framework. But we do believe a strong framework is going to be preventative, right? That's why we say the power of prevention, building strong behavior systems. So it's really important to comprehensive look at this. Otherwise, it's just another Band-Aid, right? And everyone, we don't need Band-Aids. We need fundamental ways to solve the problems. All right, so when we look at this, the way we're going to start looking at our solution is, or your solution, is in tiers, right? So the bottom tier is really everyone, all the students. And so you need a way to be able to look at your tier 1, all your students, and be able to monitor them, understand what's going on. And then, of course, when there is a recognized issue, a behavior plan is created, a BIP, and that's a tier 2. And so you need to be able to identify those students. And then, of course, obviously the most intense situations will go to tier 3. So really, behavior interventions are happening on those tier 2 and 3 students. But you also need to have data collection happening at your tier 1 or your core of your core classes, right? So this is the way we think about it. And I will be talking about this. I'll be talking about tier 1, 2, and 3 as I jump into the system. So hopefully this is familiar to you. A lot of times this is part of the definition of MTSS. Right. And of course, that's the other side of the triangle. You got your academics and you have your behavior. MTSS is the whole student. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. But that's the way we're approaching it. And that's the way we're talking about it. And that's the way when we train people, we use this methodology and this framework. All right. Okay. So I am going to jump into a system demo now. And like I said, this is going to be action packed. It's going to be moving pretty fast. And we will have time to ask questions. So if you have questions as they come up, go ahead, type them in, and we'll answer them at the end. We're going to jump into the system demo right now. Let's make sure I'm doing this properly. Hopefully you could all still see my screen. So I am logged in right now initially as a principal. So I log into the system. The first thing I want to do is start off showing you how to record incidents, right? Because this is sort of the very base level of data collection. So I would come in here and say, I need to go ahead and log something. I want to log an incident. So I come over here and I would say, is it a minor or a major? What student is it? What was the time? So automatically puts in the time, and I could pick a location. This was at a classroom. What was the subject? It was an ELA. Antecedent, what was the antecedent? It was during center activities. What was the offense? Aggression, minor, right? So now I can start putting these things in the arrangements, consequence. So the idea here is, now this also works, I'll just show you real quickly, on a mobile phone. I can't actually show my mobile phone, but we do have an app, but it would look something like this, right? A mobile phone, obviously it's nice and tiny and tight. You could see it. This works on either the computer or the mobile phone. So what happens is, you could go ahead and log this data really, really easy. So if I'm a teacher, I can go ahead and save as a draft. I can add a narrative, or I could finalize it. But the idea is, it's not just teachers. We want cafeteria workers. We want paraprofessionals. We want principals. We want teachers to be able to log incidents, because this is the area where all students are available from your pick list. Because maybe it's me, Richard. So someone says, hey, Richard is sitting by himself, not talking with his friends. Hey, Richard got in an argument with the cafeteria helper. Richard got in another argument with his teacher. So we start seeing a pattern, right? And maybe I don't have an intervention plan, but if it's really easy to track and we train everyone how to do it, it'll happen. But if you don't have a tracking system and it's a matter of people having to write things down on a sticky note, they're not going to do it, right? So this is the first kind of thing you're going to log, either minor or major. But of course, your team needs to be trained on this. Now, here's the other great thing. All of these lists are completely customizable at your level. So when we created the system, we realized what good is the system if somebody already has a system in place and our pick lists, our pull down, drop down menus are not matching what you have. So we have made every single drop down menu customizable at the LEA, at the school district level. Now, of course, a lot of people might say, hey, this is great. We don't have a library. We won't select it, right? But we can basically customize if we want. And this is really good, especially if you have a system already in place. So that way we can supplement it. That way we can augment what you already have working and we can make it work better. Okay, so that's the first kind of thing, is to log incidents. The other kind of log is expected behavior. So let's say a student is already in a tier 2 or 3 and they have a behavior intervention plan in place. Okay, so then I go ahead, select the student, and then I'd say, okay, well, this is expected behavior. In the cafeteria, the expectation is they acknowledge mistakes, apologizing, like someone bumps into each other. Richard, he did apologize. I noticed that he did do this. This is great. So I'll log this, save. Okay, so this is great. Now, of course, I forgot to mention, how do you know what your expected behavior is? We have a matrix. This, again, completely customizable to your organization. So what's our expectations for the bathroom, for carpet time, for hallway, for lunchroom, playground, school bus, work time, right? This is important. We want all your teachers to be able to see this so they know what expected behavior is so they can easily rate this, right? We don't want just the behavior specialist doing this. In a sense, expected behaviors need to be logged by everyone. And this is part of rallying your whole entire school to work on this. Right. By the way, I mean, the way this sort of happens is sometimes some districts will roll this out in a few schools because maybe there's some schools that have some kind of escalating behavior issues, right? And so, but this is something you want everyone on the team. And the cool thing is this is available on your mobile phone. You could just toggle this up. You could toggle down and see the expected behavior, so you don't have to worry about your teachers forgetting the matrix, right? All right. So hopefully that makes sense. So I just showed you how to log incidents as well as expected behaviors. Automatically, when you select the student, our system's going to know whether they're a tier 1, 2, or 3. Now let me go ahead and take a look at some of the data. Okay, so again, I'm logged in as a principal. Everyone's dashboard's a little different. As a principal, I'm going to come in here maybe on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and I'm going to take a look at my pending issues. In this particular workflow, the principal has to approve all majors. So we have it routing to the principal. Anytime a major happens, they can come over here. And by the way, this is real data, but the names have all been changed. So everything is de-identified. So here's one. They have to finalize. The student put his hands around another student's neck and left physical marks. Okay, student was punching another student in the gym before school. The student left school grounds during 9:35. Okay, this is actually real data. Like I said, you see the kind of issues that schools are dealing with. It's very frustrating. So the principal can come over here and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this. I'm going to view it, and I could make a decision to either maybe I could finalize it, not finalize it. Maybe I need to tweak it, adjust it, so I can edit any issue that comes into their queue. All right. If I want to take a look at expected behaviors, this is great. We see some different things, expectations, showing perseverance, be a good listener. We can see that these students are making progress, and we see this stuff happening. Okay, so this is great. As a principal, I could look at this. Now, the other thing too is it may just not necessarily just be a principal. You may have behavior teams who are looking at this dashboard. And this dashboard is going to be editable and changeable depending on your role. All right, let me just check progress monitoring. This is a just real quick way. I can go ahead and select a school. I could, if I wanted to, if I'm looking at multiple schools. And now this is sort of an interesting thing to look at because I can see right here on my list, I've got 1, 2, 3 kids who are actually in intervention. These other students are all tier 1, right? But look at this. I see 2 kids who are at risk. This one student, Allison and Jason, they both have 8 incidents that have happened. And so I would say that they're highly at risk. And again, I think you can adjust your thresholds here. So I may want to talk Allison and Jason and find out what's going on, right? Do we need an intervention plan or do we need just some, a talk? Do we need to talk to the counselor? Do we need to find out something happening at home? So this is something that we could spot. And this is great, right? The saying is a strong core, a strong tier 1, and you prevent tier 2 and 3s from happening, right? So we want to be able to really work on these students who are at risk. Now, some of these are minor, right? Only 3 incidents. I think obviously you have to set the threshold, but this is a great way you look at this on a regular basis, right? Now, the dashboard. This is real exciting. If I take a look at the dashboard now, this is my particular dashboard as a principal. I'm looking at this, I see, okay, we had 28 physical fights, 25 classroom disruptions, minor aggressions, inappropriate behavior, disrespect. We see that we have a spiking of stuff happening in Wednesday, which is sort of interesting. We can see the time of day. We see the environment. So this is all customizable. These are different dashboards. Positive behavior, minor incidents. I could also go ahead and adjust the time period that I'm looking at my reports. So it's really, really powerful. But this is the kind of reports. Obviously, a principal would have a slightly different dashboard than a behavior team, or maybe a teacher would have, minimal dashboard. Mainly, the teacher would be able to review their draft incidents that maybe haven't been finalized yet, right? So anyway, that is sort of it in a nutshell. What I really wanted to sort of convey to you today is that this is a really very nimble system. It's customizable. We understand that behavior systems across schools and districts are very different. Everyone has implemented it in a different way, right? So what I want to do now is let's go ahead and let's take some questions. So if you have a question, please enter it into the dialog box and we will answer those. Okay, first question popped up. Can you roster an entire district? Do you work with Clever for rostering? Yes, absolutely. As I mentioned, our core assessment system is a reading and math present level diagnostic plus instruction. So yeah, we can roster with Clever, ClassLink, however you want. We even have done some manual rostering. So we could definitely work with any kind of system you want. And you're right, you would want full rostering if you're trying to do tier 1 through 3 monitoring. Okay. Go ahead again, put the questions into the question box. All right, so what is the core site survey? How does this help our school or help a school? So I didn't show you the core site survey. So we have a 56-point, I believe, core site survey. The idea is we do have a technology component. So you may have a handful of administrators who go through and literally survey the school. They can go through and answer the questions and they submit it. And then it's a way also the data is rolled up. You could also do that in a paper and pencil survey, right? But it's nice to have a technology component because then you could look at it. But the idea of the core site survey is ahead of time, you decide what do we require of all of our sites, right? Are the teachers trained? Is the behavior team trained? And there's more detail to it. So I'm just really going over lightly, but the idea is the core site survey provides the framework for implementation, and it's really important. There's a best practices for it, and that's what we use for our core site survey, but you may also pare it down or expand it depending on your need. Okay, how much does it cost? So the cost is going to vary. I can't give you an exact cost right now, but it's basically going to be a per student cost. Either it's all students per student, or it could be if somebody's using it just for tier 2 and 3, it could be just for tier 2 and 3 students, right? But it's going to be basically on a per student cost. Now we've also, some districts have said they want a site cost, so we do have that as well. And I apologize, I can't give you exact numbers right now. Part of it is just because this is a new product, and so I don't have it. There's a lot of parameters, especially with PD and different things like that. But the idea is we're trying to do this really in a competitive way. We want to help as many schools as possible. So, okay, we are 100% special education transition program, 18 to 22 years old with about 70 students. Can you see a use for your program for us? Absolutely. Yeah, I think that would be great for a program like that, because if you do want to track behavior, it's a really easy and nimble way to do it. You probably already have some kind of system in place, so maybe that would be something where we'd come in here and try to match and adjust our logging to what you have. And that way, it's a real simple and easy way. I mean, this is great. Literally on a mobile phone, Apple or Android, you could just put your data in there or on the computer. So it's a really easy way to collect data. Great question. Okay, so here's another one. How does this fit into PBIS? Okay, so PBIS, positive behavior intervention systems, is really a subset, right? So MTS is broader. And I would say PBIS is something that you're doing to help positive behavior. But really, it's about setting some of those expectations I mentioned. What is our expectations? Publishing that, training your team. So I actually think that, a PBIS fits into your broader framework, which hopefully you have a broader behavior framework, and then PBIS is a part of that. And what we're trying to do is basically give you data to help support those systems. So our systems could help support PBIS. But it would also help support the broader framework. Okay, great questions. These are really good. Are administrators able to interact with teacher submissions? Absolutely. So the principal can see all the submissions, and you're right. Sometimes you may have one teacher who is submitting a lot of incidents, and maybe the principal may want to calibrate people, right? So they say, hey, one teacher is submitting, I don't want to say this, but too many incidents, or maybe another one's not doing enough. So the principal could see all of them, and you could set that up how you want to have that review. Now, it could also be a behavior learning team that does the review, right? So yeah, all the incidents come into the system. And, for our standpoint, because we're a hardcore diagnostic assessment company, logging incidents that are teacher inputted is really a simple thing from a technology standpoint. What was harder to do is to make sure that it's customizable to everyone's framework. And that was a little bit more difficult. Are there any printable reports or summaries you can make either for internal or for sharing with parents? Absolutely, yeah. So some of the reports are definitely printable. And then what we do is you would maybe turn those into a PDF. So yeah, there are printable reports. I can't necessarily show them all to you right now, but the good thing about us is that our system is very nimble. And, you may say, hey, well, there's a certain report we have to have in order to implement this. And then, we'll talk to you and hopefully create that report for you. The idea of what we're moving towards, especially now that we've brought AI into our development process, is to be very nimble and create reports for each particular need. And that's something that we've been doing a lot over the past year. Okay, what does tier mean on dashboard? I think I answered that one. That popped up before, so maybe that's the tiers, again, is tier 1 means it's just they're a general ed student. They have not been put into a tier 2 or 3. Tier 2 is when you make a decision. So what I may do is, by the way, let me show over here. I would come over here and I would say, here's a student. Remember, this one student's at risk. I would now assign a tier, right? So the behavior team or the principal or however you do it, I would say that Allison has 8 incidents. She needs to go into a tier 2. I'm going to go ahead and assign her a tier 2 and give her a reason. Boom, I hit assign, and that's what happens, right? So again, that's how the tiers work. And I think you also control who has the ability to assign a tier. It's not going to be a teacher. It's usually going to be somebody with higher level permission. Okay, can my school do a trial of this? Absolutely, you can do a trial. Just respond to us. I think you're going to get an email, and obviously we have your email address since we emailed you about this webinar, so we can set up a trial. What we'd also do is initially one of our, maybe Amy, would have a conversation with you just to find out what your guys' needs and make sure it's a good fit, because obviously to do a trial, it's sort of a big commitment, and we want to make sure that we can meet your needs before we turn you loose on the system. All right, these are great questions. Let's see here. Our district has a hodgepodge behavior policy. How can you help guide us? Okay, you're not alone. First of all, I just want to say a lot of schools and districts all have a hodgepodge of behavior. And part of it is because things come up organically, right? And a lot of times you don't think you need a behavior framework until things are out of control. So I think the thing to do in that case is really to talk to Amy Dupree. She's in charge of sort of like the behavior program and implementation. Have a 30-minute conversation with her, and she could talk and she's so experienced, she would be able to sort of guide you initially, like, oh, okay, maybe we do this, or maybe you need this, and figure out what the best path is. But so we're always happy to have a conversation. So if that's something you want to talk to her about, she could do it. It's not me. I don't have the expertise. I'm not a practitioner like Amy, or some other people on our team as well. And so I would say just let us know, and we could set up a conversation. So that's a great question. Okay. All right. We're almost out of time. We have 3 minutes. Let me just put up the last slide just so you guys can see how to get let me bring this here. All right, hopefully you see this, but there is start a conversation. You guys could scan that code, but you also, if you respond, say, hey, I'd like to have a conversation, you could do that too on the email. But we would definitely want to take next step. If someone wants to do a trial, someone wants to have a conversation, someone wants a little advice, we're happy to do that. So let me see here. I think that's it. There's no more questions. I'm sorry, I have multiple menus and monitors here. I think we're good. So thank you so much. We will be sending a recording of this webinar to you, maybe tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then Monday at the latest. But we really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me, share with you what we're working on. And also, one last thing is we're real excited about behavior, because behavior is a very dynamic issue. And again, what we're trying to do is make a very nimble system that's going to be flexible, because any kind of technology solution has to be flexible, because there's so many different type of ways of looking at behavior. And that's what I think we've achieved with this first rollout of this product. All right. Thank you so much, and have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.